All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, it's the same old song and dance for the New York football Giants as for the third consecutive year. They have begun the season with a record of 2-7. The Giants, following their loss today to the 49ers, are well on their way to their third consecutive losing season and eighth in the last 9 years. And as the current mess of the Giants falls into the laps of general manager Joe Schoen and head coach Brian Daboll, you got to wonder if Giants team owner John Mara is ready to move on from this duo that just 4 years ago was able to take the New York, New Jersey area by storm. Now, yes, Shane and Dayball nearly have 4 years under their belts with the Giants, but have they made things better or worse for one of the NFL's oldest franchises? You look at things right now. The lack of impact players that have been drafted by Joe Shane, okay, which is really saying something, being that the Giants are consistently picking early on in the draft. You go back to some of the free agency moves by this team. Number one, letting Saquon Barkley go after the 2023 season. And of course, he was basically handed to the Philadelphia Eagles. And I'll let you fill in the blanks from there. Okay. You think about it. Xavier McKinney was another guy who the Giants allowed to walk. And, we saw what he did in his first year with the Green Bay Packers. And then, of course, the biggest bugaboo of them all, the world, okay, was convinced that Daniel Jones was not the guy, and the Giants made the right move to move on from him until he suited up this season for the Indianapolis Colts. We also saw a couple of years ago Dayball move on from defensive coordinator Wink Martindale in favor of Shane Bowen, the former Titans defensive coordinator. And the Giants' defense under Shane Bowen has been a mess. Okay, I'll tell you like this, me as a guy who hasn't played football in about 3 decades, I'll tell you like this. I could probably go out there and average about 3.5 yards per carry against this Giants run defense. It has been terrible this season. We saw last week Saquon Barkley was basically struggling to get 60 yards a game prior to last Sunday. And of course, what did he do in the first quarter against this Giants defense? We saw Christian McCaffrey get triple digits today. And we saw the 49ers basically do whatever they wanted to do offensively. Okay, that again falls into the lap of the defensive coordinator and Shane Bowen. David, 73-39. Oh, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Had a senior moment there. The kid, what's going on, my man? Long time, man. He's saying it's time for the Giants to get rid of the coaches and management. I do have a lot of hope for Jackson Dart with a good coaching team. I'll tell you like this. I think the Giants are going to have a house cleaning. I truly do. Okay. We saw the planes once again flying over the Meadowlands prior to today's game, of course. That happened multiple times last year. And Giant fans, or the Giants, had not seen that since the 1970s. Okay. So I think the house cleaning is there because going into this year, after last season, rather, you remember, John Mara basically put Shane and Dayball on notice. Okay, and they have not done anything so far that is going to make you think that, hey, you know what, they are going to be back in their respective positions next season. I think it's going to be a house cleaning at the Meadowlands in more ways than one. You look at it for the Giants with their defense. Like I said, they can't stop anybody. They're near the bottom of the NFL in yards allowed, as well as against the rush. The only thing the Giants can do is sack the quarterback. But the thing is, in order to sack the quarterback, you've got to put a team in second and long and third and long. And if you can't stop the run, you know, all of the pass rushers in the world that you have really ain't going to amount to a hill of beans. And that's an issue right there. The injuries are definitely taken away from the Giants. I mean, you see the potential that Jackson Dart has as their quarterback, but he doesn't have his guy. His go-to guy, his number one guy, Malik Neighbors at wide receiver. And of course, you have to wonder where would this offense be right now if they did have a Malik Neighbors last out there. Of course, that gruesome injury last Sunday and the loss of the Eagles to Cam Scatterboo. And of course, Scatterboo in a very short period of time really ingratiated himself to the Giants fan base, as well as showing that, hey, you know what? There's a new sheriff in town as far as ball carriers. And of course, his energy is no longer there. So that's a big loss. But nonetheless, you look at the Giants again, they're 2-7. It is going to be a very tall task for them to try to, save some type of face, if you will, for the rest of the season. They're 2-7 at this point. Uh, Honestly, if the Giants could find a way to go 4-4 the rest of the way, I think that would be a minor miracle. It's one of those where I get it, but I don't get it because the Giants were one of the worst teams in the NFL last year, and they somehow found a way. The NFL did to give them the hardest schedule in the league this year, and of course, it didn't help with some of the playoff teams that they had to face right out of the chute. Three out of their first four were against playoff teams from last year. Their first two games were on the road, okay, but nonetheless, you still got to go out there and play games, and the Giants have shown that they could compete in some of those games, but like I said the other week, the Giants are suffering from bad franchise syndrome. And when I say that is they don't know how to win games. They don't know how to close them out. They were right there in week two at Dallas. They had their opportunities at home in week three against Kansas City. No reason for them to lose like they did to New Orleans, okay, if they're trying to take that next step. And then right after the dominating win over the Eagles in week six on Thursday night, they blew that big lead on the road against Denver. And then, of course, last Sunday against Philly, and then today against San Francisco. When you add it all up, got a team that's 2-7 and is more than likely going to be picking in the top five yet again in the NFL draft. So, the kid, like you asked before, and I'll bring it up again, is John Mara ready to go in a different direction if the Giants don't show any improvement or battle over the second half of the season? Um, I think that the decision is already made. The Giants organization, historically, outside of them moving on from Ben McAdoo back in 2017, they really do not like to make in season coaching changes. But nonetheless, I think it's gone. I'll tell you like this, with the fan rebuttal that we're already seeing, and this is just the 2nd of November, I think it's only a matter of time where A, you're going to have empty seats yet again in MetLife Stadium, and B, the paper bags are going to be broken out and put over fans' head. And when you factor all of those things in together, owners see that, owners know that. And on top of that, John Mara, it's one of those he wants to see his team get back to winning. Okay, it's hard to believe, okay, but we're getting near to the 15-year point for the last time that the Giants won a Super Bowl. But after their Super Bowl win in 2011, the Giants have only had three winning seasons. They've only had two trips to the postseason. They've only won one playoff game, and the losses are mounting up. Uh, 13 losses in 2017, 12 more in 2019. Okay, 11 under Daboll in 2023, 14 under Daboll in 2024. And the way things are going right now for the Giants, honestly, if they could find a way to finish 5-12, I think that would be a minor miracle. You're saying whoever made the Giants schedule this year is diabolical. It's like they hate us. I mean, again, I said this when the schedule first came out. I don't get it. This was a team, I think the Giants picked no, they picked third, I think, in the draft last year. It was heading into the NFL draft. It was Tennessee and then Cleveland, and then of course Cleveland made the trade with Jacksonville. But nonetheless, this was a team that only won three games last year. How in the world did they get that schedule? And on the flip side, I'm not trying to like say it like that, but you look at a team like New England. New England is enjoying a turnaround this year, but also New England is benefiting from having a very comparable schedule, okay, compared to coming from where they were last year. Just the whole make it make sense aspect in that one, I simply don't get. But for Shane and Dayball, it's one of those. If Mara is ready to really move on from them, Where's he going to go? I mean, there are rumors that the Giants could possibly be looking at an established head coach because these first time head coaches have not worked out for them. It was Ben McAdoo who was brought in to kind of be the heir apparent to Tom Coughlin. That didn't work out. Then it was Pat Shermer. Pat Shermer did have previous experience as a head coach in Cleveland, but need I say more? Then it was Joe Judge, and then it was Brian Daboll. So there's rumors about John Mara looking to go out there and get himself an established head coach. I'm going to throw a couple of names out there, and the kid, you please feel free to chime in right here. I'm going to throw out the names of John Gruden. I'm also going to throw out the names of Bill Belichick. And I'm saying this clearly. I don't have any inside information. I'm just speaking hypothetically. But you have two head coaches that have each won Super Bowls in the National Football League. And of course, in the case of Belichick, he has a ton of familiarity with the Giants organization, dating back to his time as a team's defensive coordinator on their first two championships. He knows what it takes to win in New York. More importantly, he knows what it takes to win for the Giants. But on the flip side, Bill Belichick has not been the same guy throughout his coaching career, collegiately or in the NFL, without Tom Brady at quarterback. Okay, so that's something else you got to factor in. And in the case of John Gruden, okay, we saw Gruden have success initially with the Raiders before him and Al Davis had their fallout. Went to the Bucks. Was what they needed to get over the top in order to win that championship in 2002, and then was brought back to the Raiders. Was starting to turn things around before he was fired in 2021, and then of course now the lawsuit against the National Football League. So you'd have to wonder if that lawsuit would affect things as far as people looking at Gruden. I'll say like this: you can say whatever you want about anybody, okay, in pro sports, but if there's a person out there and people feel like that person is going to give them an opportunity to win, things can easily be forgotten very quick. Okay, I'll put it to you like that. So if the Giants really wanted John Gruden to be their head coach, I think they would go out there and make it happen. You know, it's like and then, like just flipping gears real quick to answer your questions. You're saying that you agree with me that Gruden would be a great choice, and you also agree that Belichick has not been the same without Tom Brady. He has been terrible. Okay, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But in the case of Gruden, Gruden is a fan of Jackson Dart. And I think whomever the Giants head coach is going, who you're going to bring in 2026, I think it's basically it's a all but done that Dayball's not coming back or Shane. So whoever you bring in as your head coach in 2026, he has to be somebody who knows that he can get the most out of a Jackson Dart, and you have to like who you have at quarterback. John Gruden likes Jackson Dart, okay? And in the case of both Belichick and Gruden, they're guys who, at this state of the game, they want to have a say in personnel decisions. We saw when Mark Davis brought Gruden back to the Raiders, okay? It was a scenario where he hired Gruden first and allowed him to hire his general manager. And we've been seeing that trend sometimes recently in the NFL with the for the established coaches. We saw it with Jim Harbaugh with the Chargers as he was allowed to hire his head coach. And again, like I said before, if you bring in somebody like that, they are definitely going to want to have a hand in personnel decisions. But regardless of who the Giants bring in, A, you have Jackson Dart to work with. B, this organization, okay, from top to bottom, is in dire need of a culture change because, again, they don't know how to win games. You look at it for like the last 10 years, the Giants must lead the world, okay, in walk off field goals of 50 yards or more, okay. We've seen them look at the situation back in week 2 in Dallas. The defense basically needed to stop Dallas for the last 30 seconds of the game, and they couldn't do it. Okay. You go back to the Denver game, and so many different scenarios like that over the years. So, again, this is an organization that is in need of a culture change. One thing I see about this Giants team, and it's not just today, it hasn't just been this season, it's been for years. There is a lack of accountability. Okay. You don't have enough guys in that organization that hate to lose more than they enjoy winning. And you could see it already from Dart. You could see it already from Scatterboo because they're dealing with certain things that they're not accustomed to dealing with because they won in college. And of course, when you go to a bad team in the NFL, you're going to have to deal with the losing. But honestly, at the same time, you have guys within the Giants who have simply just accepted the losing aspect as well. So, again, if you're a fan of the Giants, things have not been great for you since 2013. Okay, like I said before, only 2 winning seasons, and they have to find somebody in there who is going to get things turned around. I guarantee you, the Giant fans are tired of finishing in last place in the NFC East. And I got news for you. Now that Jaden Daniels is with the Commanders, the Giants are not going to be flipping back and forth with them. It's basically going to be the Giants as the undisputed champs of the basement in that division, if you will, while Philly, Washington, and Dallas continue to slug it out. And you want to get back in that conversation with the Giants. You don't want to be a team where when other teams see you on their schedule, they can go out there and just pencil it off as an easy win. Dart today talked about some, or was asked rather, about so many 49er fans in the stands. That's because you know what? Listen, the Giants have not given their fan base something to cheer about. You think about it. That's why you see so many Philly fans in the stands at MetLife Stadium. So many Cowboy fans, 49er fans, Packer fans, Steeler fans, whomever. Okay, because the Giants have not given their fan base something to go out there and get excited about, something to show up to the stadium about, and be ready for. And of course, with that said, like I said before, on the flip side, you have a situation where teams know all we got to do is show up, take care of our business, get on the bus, get back to the plane, and head home with a victory. That's basically what it's been for the Giants. You're saying a lot of people are saying that John Mara should sell the team, but why would he do that? He just has to look deep into finding the right management and coaching staff for Jackson Dart and that team. John Mara's not selling that team. John Mara's not selling that team. It's one of those. I think this franchise was founded by his grandfather. Okay, and it's been in the Mara family for several generations, and I think it's going to stay like that. It's going to be something I'm sure that John Mara passes down to the next generation of his children. So you don't have to worry about that. But again, like you said before, it comes down to them finding the right person. You go back to the infamous fumble by Joe Pisarcik in 1978 at the Meadowlands. After that game, it got to the point that the Giants actually reached out to the NFL for help. And that's when the NFL brought in George Young to turn things around. I'm not saying that it's getting to that point with the Giants, but they have to go out there and find the right person to lead this team. It all comes down to organization. It all comes down to coaching. It all comes down to structure. You look at the Carolina Panthers just a year ago or so, you had people who felt that Bryce Young was going to be a bust. Look at what he is doing right now. Look at how the Panthers are changing under Dave Canales as their head coach. You had people who were questioning Trevor Lawrence, the former first overall pick of the draft. Liam Cohen is now the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And look how things have changed there. So you have to find the right people. Okay. And at least the Giants can entice somebody due to the fact that they have a Jackson Dart at quarterback. Okay, unless uh, Daboll gets him injured between now and the end of the season because of the way that Daboll is relying on him. Because basically, Daboll's job is on the line, and at this point, I don't think Daboll's job is on the line anymore. I think he's done. Okay, but nonetheless, this is the state of the Giants right now, and I can't say this enough. Big time need for a culture change for this franchise. The losing has to stop at some point. If you're a Giant fan, you have to say, hey, you know what? At some point, the tide is going to turn because, believe it or not, there are little kids out there who follow the Giants, and they've never seen the Giants win. And I'm not talking about a championship. Okay. I'm just talking about the Giants being a contender. Okay. This is where this thing has gotten to. So at this point, I think, Shane and Dayball, they will start packing the bags. There's no way that they're going to be back with this team in 2026. And I'm just really interested to see who they get to come in there going forward to attempt to turn this thing around. Again, they need an established person as head coach. They need an established general manager. You go back to their last successful stint there. It was Ernie Accorsi, longtime NFL GM, who came in basically after George Young. So it's one of those where they need an established person. They're not going to find that quote unquote diamond in the rough, that young and upcoming stud. They haven't been able to do that since Parcells. All right. So for the Giants, big time changes that need to come down the pike for this organization. The bleeding has to stop at some point, and you have to get somebody that's going to come in there and say, you know what, we're not taking this crap no more. Will John Mara finally find the right people to lead his franchise? We just got to sit back and wait and see how things turn out in East Rutherford. But folks, that's going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank each and every one of you for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. First and foremost, the kid, it's been a long time, my man, but I definitely appreciate your support. I definitely appreciate your comments. And like I always say, please, please, please don't be a stranger to this channel. Much love, okay? For everybody else, if you like what you heard and saw in this podcast, you know what to do. Just hit that like button as well as subscribing to this channel. And like I always say, it's greatly appreciated. Also, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, you could check me out anytime at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you give me that follow, I will do the same in return. And that also goes for Instagram, where you can check me out at 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge. Also, if you're on Facebook, definitely check out the Sports Depot 365. And as far as I'm concerned, one of the better sports debating groups going on social media. But until next time, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I'm signing off, and I'm saying thanks once again for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Be well, everybody.